Okay, so Bino. So hello there, people, and let's go live. Let's give Bino the 5 minutes he needs to set up the radio stream because we're having some technical challenges today. And I can't really start this program without Bino because he is as concerned by the topic as I am. And I think the discussion that we're about to have would not be complete if you were not on stage. And so I'll just talk about our guests for today for a minute because we have an interesting program about elections and participation in elections for people without German nationalities in Germany. To set this up, on the 26th of September, there is a huge, I mean, what they in America call probably an election palooza of elections happening. So you have the federal elections, you have in Berlin at least you have votes for the city council and the mayor. You have the outcome, and you have the Volksbegehren, which is a difficult German word. The Volksbegehren, you have the demand for Deutsche Wohnen to be communalized, which is going to be voted on the same day. So there's going to be a lot happening on the 26th of September. And last week we were on a demonstration with a number of people, including Sanaz and Azadeh, who will be meeting later, together with Moritz from the Vielen, who held an excellent speech. And we'll introduce all of these people in a minute because we do have them here today as guests, and we have them hopefully in attendance later. So am I live? I need to ask. Because and so I'm waiting right now, as I mentioned, for Bino to join us. He's still setting up the radio stream. We've had some technical challenges in the morning. And if Bino can join me on the stage now, oh, that would be amazing. Yes. Do we have radio now? Oh, is there something on radio? Bino. That's our stream on YouTube. Bino, welcome to the stage. I missed
like
you.
This or
A bit higher.
so for me, yes, it's a very interesting topic, and yeah, it's a wish, I think, for everyone to have a voice, and because if we talk about democracy should be for everyone,
Yes.
not for certain class of people. And yet we do all agree that we are all humanists. We belong to one race called humanity. So all humanists must be respected, no matter where they come from, no matter how they look like, no matter what kind of gender they associate with themselves, and what kind of financial status. Democracy doesn't know all that. Democracy, what it knows is about humanity, our well-being, our coming together. So this topic today, and it's good that we have good friends of us who will come in or who are working on this topic. I think it is amazing, and yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity to join. Though today I'm a little bit not well, because actually also I'm here because of the radio. And if I am not connected, I don't feel happy. But in all, I am happy to be here. And thank you, Dominic, for coming. And I heard about you. My colleague told me about you, and I didn't really have much time to read your article, but it's amazing. Anyway, you were here, and we're gonna have a talk together with Azadeh
and Sanaz,
and
yes.
yeah,
Azadeh and Sanaz,
Yes.
they're activating, let's say. They say they're not activists, but they're activating with their organization Miglum. We met them at the demonstration I was talking about on the 28th. A number of people, organizations, and bodies basically got together to advocate for the topic of our episode today. And this is in part why we're doing it, because I met some of them at the demonstration and thought these people have something really important to say about the society we live in.
Right.
Even if elections are not all of democracy, they are a good way to gauge, to see where we are in our democracy, and to collect where we are as a society as well.
Yeah, the election it's not as it doesn't really have anything to do with democracy. It is a capitalist thing to justify themselves as Democrats, but in actual sense, there is no democracy. If election is to put those horrible people in a power, and whatever they do, they refer to elections, you know. I had a chance to talk to some of the Kreisberg or Berliner politicians, like the Mr. Drieger, I don't know Drieger, I forgot his name well. Because during the occupation of Oranienplatz, remember we were there, and all of them were trying to come there. So this guy from the CDU was coming there and say he wanted to know our demands, but I think he wanted to know who are the people there protesting. So he was telling us, no, you must respect our democratic governance, because we are actually elected. We are elected. So people give us the power, and through this you can't change anything. Maybe you vote, you know, you have to convince the voters, but who are the voters?
Well, that is exactly the question that we're here to talk about. Who can participate in this kind of process? Because if he comes to you and tells you, I'm elected, you didn't choose the guy, did you?
No. You know?
And you didn't have the opportunity to, let's say, take part in processes that formed the place you're living in.
Yes.
And exactly. So what are the effects of this? I mean, Berlin is a special case, maybe, in that there is a very large population of people who, let's say, do not have the German nationality, who live here either for political purposes, for work purposes, for all kinds of reasons. And we have a huge part of this population that can't participate in shaping what's happening around them. All these processes are shaped by not a minority, but less people than could be represented. And what would it change, if people without German papers but living in Germany could co-determine these processes?
Yes, even if we won't change something much, but it will give us a sense of connectivity, a sense of feeling at home.
Okay. So it will give you a sense of feeling at home, of being more part of the thing.
Yes, that I am connected to the society here.
Mhm.
But if they just tell me, you have no right to, it is in other way a diplomatic way of saying that actually you don't belong here.
Mhm. Mhm.
Why
Yeah.
you don't have a voice here?
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, it's part of what came out of the nation state, basically, that we have borders and that everything's separated in the way it has been for the past 100 years. I mean, all of these are imaginary borders,
Right.
but also things that were in the time we live in today, maybe even starting to overcome. Because societies are not necessarily only shaped from the inside. And if we look, for instance, to make a whataboutism comparison at American elections, these are things that really shape the world for everyone.
Right.
And maybe the time has come to give everyone who is on location and affected by political decisions the opportunity to actually shape these decisions. And this is kind of where I'd like to bring Dominic in. Dominic Ritter-Woning or Dominic Woning?
Dominic Ritter-Woning. It's a complicated name.
Dominic Ritter-Woning?
You could just say Dominic.
Okay, I'll just say Dominic. Dominic is a journalist who is with the RBB, probably amongst other outlets, I don't know. Oh, and a while back you wrote an article about how many people in Berlin can actually not participate in elections. Do you want to tell us that number?
Yes, so it's 1 out of 3.
Mhm.
It's 34.5% of the people who live in Berlin who are not allowed to vote the Bundestag and the Berlin Landtag. Looking at the local elections,
Mhm.
it's a little bit... some people are allowed to vote there, some more. But in the Berlin and the nationwide election, so it's 1 out of 3.
That's a lot of people. I mean, so you're telling us a third of the population cannot vote in federal elections and can't shape what's going on their own quarter, basically.
Yes, that was the number was shocking for me too.
Yeah.
Whoops. It's a lot of, so it's I can talk a little bit about the kind of people who are not allowed to vote.
Yeah, please do.
By German law. So the biggest group probably is people without a German passport. The other second major group is people who are younger than 18 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, which is kind of in I think in every country in the world you have some sort of age limit, but it's also something to keep in mind. And the third group, which is really a small group, is people who for some reason lost their right to vote, mainly because they committed a crime or they were sent to a mental hospital. Yes, those are the people who are not allowed to vote. And then you have other people who you maybe not even know how many they are, people who have difficulties to vote, say people without an address, without an apartment. They have a much higher hurdle to register, so you can, I mean, obviously you have a much lower participation rate. And then you have a lot of people who are, so when we talk about 1/3, it's only accounted for the people who are actually registered. Everybody who's under the radar, who is sans papier, who is doesn't have papers, is not even among those. Yeah.
So the number we're looking at might be even higher than what you found out.
Probably it's hard to guess, but
I mean, considering that Berlin is one of these places where you have a lot of movement, let's say, and a lot of people moving through, but also a lot of people who simply aren't registered because of various reasons. That's a lot of people. And I mean, as far as I know, you're Austrian, right?
Yes.
And you can't. If you had the option, what would you be? I mean, what would you participate in?
I mean, I'm Austrian. I have a European passport, so I'm allowed to vote Bezirksverordnetenversammlung, the local government, the local parliament. I would like to vote also the three other elections we have there. I mean, I have opinions, and it matters for me too. I'm renting. Me and my family, we are renting an apartment owned by Deutsche Wohnen. So it really it's kind of it's gonna change the outcome of our probably how we're gonna. Oh yeah, but it's interesting for us and also the German government. And the weird thing is, I'm allowed to vote in Austria. I haven't lived there for 6 years, but I'm supposed to vote there, which I do. But I would rather change it. I would prefer to swap. And if I live here, I vote for the German parliament, and if I move, I vote where I live.
I mean, I need to ask the slightly sneaky question: why not just get a German passport? I mean, for you, it may be easier than for many other people, but why not get a German passport?
Yes, it's a good question. I mean, I don't know the exact rules, if I would be eligible or not, but I think there would be some pathway for me, at least if I wait long enough. But on the other hand, I have, as an EU citizen, I have sufficient rights here. I can work, I can live, I can do whatever I want. We can participate in everyday culture. So the only incentive for me to get the passport would be to be able to vote, and therefore I don't know. I haven't made up my mind. I'm probably also not gonna stay here forever. That's the other thing. We're considering. We are planning to move back. So that would be weird to have, because I would have to give up my old passport. So then change it back. I mean, it's not something you change every day, especially as complicated and expensive as it can be. But I think that's also a problem for the near future, with especially with the European laws. So you have like around 300,000 people who are allowed to vote in the local elections. Those are people who are 16, 17 years old, and you have European people, and they don't have a real incentive now to get a passport. So they will probably stay in forever, might live here and not get a passport and not be able to participate.
And for you, the hurdles are, of course, much lower than they would be for someone who arrives, for instance, as a migrant, sans-papier, a refugee. I mean, there are various reasons why people have really a very difficult path to getting, let's call it, either official recognition or papers, or even being recognized in the second or third generation. And I mean, I kind of, again, wish Bino were on stage right now, because this is something I'd like to put to him, but he's focused very much on the radio. So, I mean, without being objective about it, what could a solution, for instance, to all of to this look like? Would you open up elections to anyone, leave them, for instance, after a certain period of time of living in the country, people automatically get the right to vote? It's just something that's there. Everyone can vote wherever you come from. I mean, do you know of, I mean, there are tests at inclusiveness, but do you know of any path to widen this and to alleviate this problem without having to change nationality?
I'm not a politician, but there would be ways. I mean, this one you said that you have you get the granted the right to vote after a certain time. Say you've lived somewhere for 1 year, for 3 years, then you're allowed to vote. That would be a path forward. The other way would be to allow double citizenships, or maybe 3 citizenships at once. Yeah, that would could make a change. That's probably more the direction we are going right now, with this in the foreseeable future. But I mean, in an imaginary world, I I would say it's more where people live. They should be voting, and
I mean, okay, I have my own perspective on this, which is basically that we should move to something like a global federal government in a way, where you vote for a single guy at the top, but have a lot more say on your local level wherever you are. But I mean, there has been change in Germany over the past years. And there's been changes in the voting laws and who's allowed to participate and who has been included in the voting laws. I mean, you were, for instance, talking about people with mental difficulties, or people who cannot care for themselves. I think especially when we're looking at at people with disabilities, then there has been change there, and there has been legal change, which has come because of also grassroots pressure. And can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes,
I mean,
somewhat. It's the first time, the first Bundestagswahl, the first national elections, where around 80,000 people will be allowed to vote. They were already at it's a kind of a change that came through from the Supreme Court. They were also allowed at the European elections 2 years ago to vote, but now it's the first time on the national level, which is 85,000 people who are betreut with.
My English is dying. Who are not supervised but live with supervision.
Yeah, it's kind of a technical term, and they will be the first time allowed to vote in the national elections, which is important and very important. So this is something. Some moving forward. I would also be in favor of giving the right to vote to younger people, or even to children or families. There has been some ideas for some votes given out to parents for their children, or even to children at some age. I mean, my kids is a baby and 2 years old, so they wouldn't be able to vote. But I think they are, especially now, you see during Corona and during the momentum we're in, that the children are not important to the government. It's so the politics are not are made for the electorate, and the electorate is mainly old Germans. To say the point.
I mean, again, it's this. As far as I understand it, it's this gap basically between who actually goes to vote and who the policies that they vote for or the parties that they vote for end up affecting. And this is thank you very much, Dominic. This has been very informative. And turn off the phone. And this is a topic we'll continue talking about with our next guest, Sanaz and Azadeh from Miglum, who are back there. We will take a short musical break now. So 5 minutes break, please, music. And then we will continue with Sanaz and Azadeh from the organization Miglum, who will tell us about their activation. So thank you very much, Dominic, and thank you for coming on. Thank you for being so brave. And yeah, I hope to have you on again soon. I'm sure we'll find other things to talk about.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Good.
Why it's so hard to make it in America? Why it is so hard to make it in America? A land with milk and honey like nothing gonna change. I gotta move away from here. I went upstate New York, a little town they call Poughkeepsie. Got me a job to get away from all that stress. But I couldn't get away. No matter how far I went, look like nothing gonna change. Everything still remains the same. Why it's so hard to make it in America? I try so hard to make it in America. We gotta make a change in America. Help somebody. We gotta make a change in America. Help somebody. Thank you.
Eins, zwei, eins, zwei, eins, zwei. Eins, zwei, eins, zwei, eins, zwei, eins, zwei. Das mittlere, eins, zwei, eins, zwei. Au, das hat ja ganz viel Power. Sehr gut. Danke.
Ja, hallo, guten Abend. Herzlich
live on YouTube, on Facebook, on stream.co, and maybe on radio. I'm not quite sure, but maybe.
The
Yes.
main radio not.
Okay, so we're not live
We
on
are
88.4
on
right now.
our XPlatz internet radio.
Excellent.
We are there.
So you will find us wherever
Everywhere.
we are, and
Yes.
wherever you are, we are there. So it gives me a lot of pleasure to introduce the two of you. I will say Sanaz and Azadeh.
Yeah.
You are both you're both taking part in a campaign called 14% Not Without Us.
Exactly.
Tell us about that.
I'm Azadeh. I'm one of the persons who's active in the campaign. And we fight for voting right for everyone living in Germany who has their center of living in Germany.
Okay.
And exactly. And which means the people who are German, but also who are not German yet.
Okay. And you are both not, I mean, I'm going to say this explicitly, that you are both not activists. Yes, in the sense that this is not your full-time job, right?
Well, yes. Can I comment on
Yeah,
that?
go.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I would say that or for me at least, I would introduce myself as an activist. It doesn't mean that I do it well, I mean, I'm somehow right now I'm doing it as a full-time job, but that doesn't also mean that it's a paid full-time job, which is also really important, because I think, I mean, in general, in the civil society work, there's always this question of which work is important, which work is being seen and everything. So in that sense, I think it's really important to also, I mean, for me, to introduce myself with this term, even though it's a really, really big term and it can have really different meanings. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a very connoted term. And I think you're a mathematician,
Yes.
though you are currently a full-time activist.
Well, yeah, I think
as-
I'm a full-time nothing. No, but like I do, I personally do really, really, really different kind of things. I mean, I also I'm studying right now. I'm working in the organization that I co-founded, and we're both working in the campaign that we co-founded. Yeah, and we're doing also other things. Yeah.
And you're studying to be an electrical engineer, I recall.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, why is this so important? This topic of participating in not in elections and in democratic processes, I'll say. And why have you decided to dedicate so much of your time to it?
Do you want to?
Should I start? Well, the question of why is it important, I think it's a really interesting question, because I mean, in the last weeks we got lots of interviews, and for that we always needed to explain why is it important. At the same time, I think for me personally, it's always like a really contradictory question, because it's like explaining something that for me is really basic. But at the same time, for me, the question is, it goes down to like explaining about the rights and everything. For that, it makes it more complicated. That's what I want to say. So why is it important is that, first of all, I think it's a question of the systematic marginalization. And I think talking about marginalization, it's important to think about first of all, which group in the society are getting marginalized and in what process are they getting marginalized. And I think for me, this not having the voting rights is one of the examples of how the process of marginalization is happening on the everyday life, but also on an institutional level, which means that it's happening and the institution are supporting that and it's legal. So for example, in this election, 14% of the population in Germany are getting excluded from the political part, from the one of the most biggest important kind of political participation. And this means more than that. This means that, again, this process of marginalization is happening in the sense that they're getting excluded. The rights that everybody in the society, everybody else in the society, except, of course, on all of the other groups who are getting marginalized, this right is being taken away from the people. And the reason is that because they don't have the right, or because they don't have the right citizenship, I would say, in that sense, because in that sense it makes sense to say what is a right citizenship. And for that, it's really, really important to talk about voting rights, and not just about voting rights, but also about, in general, the right to for a political participation. And especially when we're talking about, we are both working in the field of political participation, and anti-racism and everything else that comes with it. For that, it's really important to see what does even political participation means, even if people are being active on a civil society level, when their voices are being excluded on a really, really bigger level.
Yeah, exactly. And to continue, the things I agree with you fully, and I would say also, for example, the people have individual needs and also problems which are maybe being not seen if they can't themselves present their needs and to talk about their needs. And I think if the politics doesn't have this focus on everyone in individual level, they may see some people as a group but not as individuals, so that some kind of problems and needs are being not seen and not being talked about, since these people can't talk about themselves, and since the politics is not interested in those problems. It's not all about going to vote. It's also about being all these needs and also problems and also the kind of life they want to have in the society to be accepted and to also be considered as legitimate.
Yes, I think it makes very big sense, and actually we are here. If there's no logic behind it, if you are really a human, you know, people are here. They told you they are working. She's almost born here, you know. People are born here. People having all their belongings, almost half of their life here. I have half of my belongings here. I have my children here. And at the end you tell me you have no right to vote. You are not a human, you know? So what kind of society are we campaigning for when we talk about globalization, when we talk about integration, when we talk about democracy? Mainly my problem is with this word democracy. What can we, maybe some of those people, unfortunately we didn't have time to invite one of them. Who? Maybe Mr. Draga.
Okay, your friend, huh?
Oh, Hakan Tash. You know, I know he's a spoken person, and maybe Chanan Bailam. These are the people right to tell. Maybe also faces from the SPD people. They should come here.
I really wish we had this connection.
Yeah.
But I'd like to think of this as an ongoing conversation that we will return to.
Right.
And hopefully not too often, and hopefully it'll be resolved before too long.
Yeah.
Right.
Because everyone, you were telling me earlier one of your aims is to make this the last election that
Exactly. The last election that these people, around 10 million people living in Germany, it should be the last election that they can participate in. And yeah, this is our focus.
That it should be the last.
It should be the last election that the 10 million people who currently can't vote in Germany
Yeah.
can't take part in. So after this, everyone
They
should
should.
be inside.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but to what you say, what you said about this democracy, and that you said it's interesting to invite people also to ask them about this and what do they mean. I think it's a really, really interesting point, because so for me personally, what was always really interesting in the German political discourses is that when people talk about democracy, I think it became also a bit of like a triggering word for me, because they, even the formulation, I mean, even the way that people formulate this. I mean, I watch, I think, a lot of political talks, and especially from politicians, and a lot of time you hear this word, unsere Demokratie, our democracy. And for me, it always is the first question is that who is ours? What do you mean exactly by our democracy? Why? And then the second question is that why can we not talk about democracy without specifically making a group of people who this democracy belongs to? So why can't democracy not be in a favor of everyone and all the people, but just in favor of the ones that belong to this group of our? And in this sense, in Germany and in many countries, and I mean in most of the countries, because of also this nation-state construct, this our is very, very small, and it's just defined in this within this definition of territory and nationality and borders. And that's the problem with this our democracy. It's the same thing with our future. I mean, when you say our, you're like, who is our? You don't mean me, right? You mean you.
Those who are capitalist, because it's a language of capitalism, you know. So if they say ours, already there is a category. You are not first. You are not pure white. I think that's what they mean.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's the same thing with our Europe. I mean, it also shows also how people can identify with themselves with these words. And a lot of time you hear this, for example, this word in Europe, especially when it's about migration and asylum politics, you always hear this like our Europe, unser Europa, and you're like who is this ours? Like, what is this way of formulating?
This way of bringing people apart. One thing that didn't bring people together, and I'm going to do a hard segue here, is actually where we met at this demonstration on Oranienplatz on the 28th. And I believe we have a couple of clips we can run of that. So Ranav, if you would, the overview first. And this is mainly so that our viewers at home can get an idea of who let's call it the greater us and the greater human community that lives in Berlin can also be represented by.
But maybe as they are still searching for it, I would like to know from you what really triggered you to say, now we're going to start this campaign. What? You were working, why do you mind the actual election is? And so what triggered you?
Do you want to go first, or should I go first?
To say we start now this campaign.
Yeah, I mean, we were thinking about it for a really long time. We're also a group bigger than just two of us. We're a bigger group, and I mean, we were talking about it for the last, I would say, 6 to 8 months. Should we start a campaign or not? Yes, because I mean, what happens is that in the society, literally everybody are talking about voting right now, and it's that everything is about this Wahlkampf and everything, and even it was also before. It was not just in the last 6 months, but I think that the point where it became really important for us, or for me, was at least the point where I think this was around March, where I saw lots of politicians who were 6 months before the election, they were coming to television and they were saying very, very vividly racist, anti-migrant narratives. So they were saying stuff that for me, it was a moment where I was like, how is that even possible? How is that possible that you do such a mistake? And for me, it's a mistake. I mean, it's a like political mistake to say that before the election. And I think it was the moment where I realized, oh, because it doesn't matter, because all of
Right.
the people who are actually get affected or are somehow are affected by these policies or by these even talks are not even included in this whole like voting fight. So for that, it doesn't really matter what you say. You can go, I mean, it's the same thing with the political parties. I mean, SPD, for example, a couple of months ago, they wrote this about Ausbürgerung. I don't know what is it called in English. That
Expatriation.
that you can take away people's citizenship if they do certain kind of things. And it's not about, I mean, it's not just about that you're punishing people for what they did. It's about that it's always possible that people who have migration background, even if they get the citizenship, the security that you're giving to people, it's always gonna be taken away from you if you do something wrong. And I think that was the moment where for me it was really important to then talk about it and talk about these voting rights, at least as a pressure for this whole like political fights.
Right.
Yes, let's see the video. Good idea.
Can we also see the video?
We can see the video with a
So-
slight delay. Or
Okay.
Nav can show us the screen maybe.
Okay.
All right.
Freedom of movement is everybody's right.
Okay, so you're counting us in. This is 10 seconds? Are you showing them all in one go? Okay.
We are reaching the election times, and elections for me connects to democracy. I mean, that's why I came to Germany. There is democracy here. But democracy is not only voting.
But
Democracy is also who can vote.
For the break.
And who can vote is who cannot
In the
vote,
break.
who is excluded. Democracy for me is about upward control, that people like me, normal people, can control people in power.
Wer nicht die entsprechenden Privilegien hat, kann nicht mitreden. Wenn nicht mitreden darf, kann nicht mitgestalten. Wer nicht mitgestalten darf, kann nicht für die eigenen Rechte kämpfen. Das ist ein Teufelskreis. Und genau diesen Teufelskreis wollen wir durchbrechen.
Thank you. So
Thank
we're
you.
back. Why not, since we're here after the pictures of the demonstration, tell us about that. I mean, how did it come together? I mean, it was a pretty large undertaking. How did this happen? Where did it happen?
For the demonstration
Yeah.
to start, we knew that we need. We started with the petition, but we knew that just doing something online for justice, it doesn't bring, enough attention to the society. But also we need to bring it in the streets, and so that other people would also see what's behind our needs and what's behind this need from different perspectives. There in the demonstration, there were so many people talking from different perspectives, from people who their grandfather, for example, were living in Germany, didn't have voting right. Their father didn't have voting right, and now they have themselves the voting right, but still not their grandfather, for example, who were living since, I don't know, 60 years maybe. And they know that there is this problem that they can see you and your family, you were in this society for a long time, but still there are some rights that are taken away from you just because of some bureaucratic, bureaucratic,
I mean, I already asked this slightly unfair question of Dominic earlier. I'm going to put it to the two of you as well. Because for you, the path to what would the path to voting for you be normally now? What would you have to do?
You mean like in a bureaucratic way?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be German citizen.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And I mean, this is part of the difficulty that even if you live here, you're not necessarily German, and you don't know if you're ever if you want to be German enough, let's put it that way, to have all the papers in the passport. And yet, again, maybe this is a special situation, as we were saying earlier, that we live in a city with a very, very high percentage of people with what they call in German migrant backgrounds, and people who would never consider getting the German nationality for a variety of reasons.
Exactly.
So you're advocating for this, you are giving this a space, you are activating people on different levels. One of the questions Bino asked you, for instance, earlier was, would you also talk to German politics, and how would you address them?
Yeah,
I mean,
this actually gonna happen, and Sonas will be in a show.
Yeah, but we had so far we talked also. We have lots of negative and positive feedbacks from different also politicians and parties. Right now, for example, there are political parties who are supporting our demands. For example, as an example, on the demonstration, there was also this party which is called Die Urbane. They are supporting our demand. For example, Die Linke is also supporting our demands. They even started a petition on their own website about voting rights for everyone. There were also some politicians from the Green Party. So there is this support also from politicians, but I think it's still not that big, and it's still not that much. And I think it's really important also to take our demand from the civil society again to the political party level. So what we're planning is that after the election, which is on 26th, because of course it's not going to happen, we're not going to be having the voting rights till in the next 3 weeks. But after that, we're planning to have to include more political parties, to do a bit of lobby work with them, to try to really put pressure on them, to fight also for our demand.
Yeah, and I also find if other people who are not affected from, this issue, if they also get attention and talk about it more, there will be more. They will be also enter into the politics.
Yeah, that's part of why we're doing this here. But all of this brings me to a very different question, which is maybe more geopolitical, and it's a very simple but complex one, is the systemic international setup that we're operating under. So we have nation states, we have cities that are more or less self-governed in a way a federal republic would be. But is the global model that we're operating under still viable in a way? With the passports, with the borders, with all this stuff, does this still work in future?
No. Sorry. No. It's not just in the future. It's not working right now. How many people should die really on the European border so we understand that it's not working? It really is not working. People are dying because of their passport. It is because they don't have European passport. They are not allowed to enter the European borders, and people are dying every day in the Middle Sea or on the European border or in Greece. So it means that it has never worked. It's not working now, and it's not going to work in the future. And I think for that it's really important to also to realize that right now it's even more important to talk about this, because right now, after the pandemic and after everything that happened, after the Black Lives Matters movement, and after all of the social movement that happened in the last months and years, it's really important to understand this working on a national level is not working. It's not. It's really the experience of now all of the countries is showing that getting the vaccine having the vaccine just for the people who are living in that country is not working, because it's not solving the problem on the international level, because the international level is affected by this. And I mean, the way that it works, or it has been working so far, is that also that the people in the global north have like most of the privileges, and the people in the global south have all of the discrimination, or like they have a different also life experience, and even with the COVID and even with the climate change and everything. So it shows like on all of the level that it's not working. The problem is that so as long as that people in the global north will not do something about it, as long as climate change will just be important when it happens in the global north, when there would be a flood in Germany. As long as this would be the mentality, then nothing. Then there wouldn't be also any change. I think that's also important to mention.
I mean, this is kind of where I expect someone to come in and go capitalism.
Yeah.
And say something about how the North is hogging all the resources and keeping it a lot of, let's call it the world's production, to themselves, without actually giving the opportunity or the power to countries in the so-called global South, because when we're talking about the South, we're not necessarily talking about South. I mean, in many ways, if the pandemic has shown us anything, it's maybe that we need to rethink how we distribute our production, but also how we need to the need to redistribute our participation in production and our participation in determining what the hell is produced. Because at the rate we're going, I don't know where we're gonna be even in 2 years at this point. I don't know where we're gonna be tomorrow. But
I think we are all gonna be sucked in the capitalism system.
We're not sucked yet. We're not sucked yet.
We are still trying to cram here, but in those period you were giving, we are done.
Okay. So what happens now?
But at the same time, I see the power coming in, which I think it is a very good energy, and that our lovely sisters here, they're coming up with this campaign. I think what we have to understand as we who are in this system, that the system is not waiting us. And actually, I liked the word you said during the chat before we came in here. You said we should not wait. You know, you remember she said something that we have to go now. I think if also some good friends of us, the younger Germans, and who are saying that, who are intolerant to this capitalist system, they come up and say, now, if our lovely people here, some they have children, some they have what, they can't vote, so what is this votes for? What are these elections for? Also, we are not going to participate in these elections. If my good friend, my neighbor here is not voting, even some are working more than those who thinks they have the right to vote. So I think that will mean something.
But
will
I see your point, but I don't think, like, I see your point totally. And I think it's really important also that the people who are not affected by these systems or less affected by these systems will also fight for that. But I wouldn't say that not voting would be or for me at least, I don't think it's a good strategy, because even if you don't vote, even if 80% of the people will not vote, the system will still work, and the AfD will come then, or whatever, all of the other parties, as it's happening right now.
And also,
but there will be some signal outside. You remember, Germany is on the international scene. If we say the youth who are involving in the voting process, they're 13%. And if the election turns out that only 3% of the youth and the one who participated in the election, it is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it will have something to say in this so-called democracy, and it will change.
Mm-hmm.
Because they need these voices, the 10% voice, you know, and this will give not a clear future for this so-called democratic country.
Mm-hmm. But for
So
that,
I think is a good strategy.
Mm-hmm. But for that, I mean, first it should be from this majority people. There should be people who would who would accept first that there is this problem and that they would also want to do something about it. And I want also say that, for example, with not voting, there is this static that these 10 million people who can't vote are 3 times more than people who vote in the last election for AfD. And if these people could vote, I mean, there would be some change in the percentage of AfD that was being in the parliament. And I don't think that not voting would be bring the change.
I mean, if I just want to add also something. I think now that we're talking about voting or not voting, I think it's also really important that to say, I mean, for me, it's also really important that the people who are going to vote, I hope that everybody will go vote, at least to use their rights. But at the same time, I think it's really important for all of the people who are voting to then include this in their mind. Who are they voting for? I mean, if you're going to vote for a party that you know their first agenda is to deport all of the asylum seekers in Germany, then you shouldn't vote for them. I think it's really important to vote in solidarity with all of the marginalized group and racialized group and groups who are getting discriminated on everyday life. For that, I think it's important to think about how can we, I mean, for me, it's not either that or that. You can you can look at the system critically and at the same time have shorter strategy for voting.
Okay, to the two of you, I'd like to say your movement actually gave me a lot of hope, seeing that you could activate that many people. And I'm afraid we're going to have to leave our discussion at this for now. But we do have a short clip of Sanaz telling us about the movement. The movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, the name of the movement.
Nicht ohne uns 14%.
Thank you very much. Roll it, Ranav. We're taking a couple of minutes and go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ich bin Sanaz von der Initiative Nicht ohne uns 14%. Wir sind heute hier, um für das Thema Wahlrecht für alle zu kämpfen. Heute haben wir viele Initiative, AktivistInnen, Organisationen und auch viele PolitikerInnen dabei, die unsere Initiative unterstützen wollen. 14% aller volljährige Bevölkerung in Deutschland haben kein Wahlrecht und es kann nicht sein. Die Bundestagswahl passiert in weniger als einem Monat und fast 10 Millionen von Menschen werden von der Bundestagswahl ausgeschlossen und das muss sich ändern. Unsere Forderung ist Bundestagswahlrecht und kommunales Wahlrecht und Recht auf Volksentscheid für alle Menschen, die ihren Lebensmittelpunkt in Deutschland haben. Diese 14% der Bevölkerung haben kein Wahlrecht, weil uns die deutsche Staatsbürgerschaft fehlt und deutsche Staatsbürgerschaft ist die Voraussetzung, um Wahlrecht zu haben. Wahlrecht ist die Grundvoraussetzung jeder Demokratie und deswegen ist es wichtig, dass alle Menschen unabhängig von ihren Staatsbürgerschaft auch wählen dürfen, weil ohne Wahlrecht dürfen wir auch nicht, haben wir auch kein Mitspracherecht und können wir auch nichts in dieser Gesellschaft mitgestalten. Deswegen ist es wichtig, dass alle wählen dürfen.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Das mittlere 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, das hat ja ganz viel Power. Sehr gut. Danke.
Ja, hallo, guten Abend.
Herzlich
Thank you, Ranav. We are back, and now we are very happy that to welcome to this stage two people who know it quite well. We are happy to welcome Carolina Zinser she's the communication head of the field and also your head of office. And we are happy to welcome Moritz Pankok, who is, I believe, one of the co-founders of the field. And one of the many, without expanding on this, and also a dear colleague at the Tuck Theatre. And as you can tell by the posters on the ground, these people are engaged in a campaign. Yes. So tell us maybe a few words about the campaign to start out. The campaign is called Die Parlamenten den Vielen, so the parliaments for the many.
Of the many.
Of the many, Die Parlamenten der Vielen, den Vielen. So how did this idea come about in your case?
Should I start? Okay. So the idea came up last year, where we were sitting together with people of the field from all over Germany, and of course the election were in our mind for the next year. And so we started in November to gather people and search for informations around this topic. Try to reach out to people that are already working in organizations or already set up in demand for voting rights for all. That's how we started.
Which brings me to the logical questions. What are the demands of this campaign?
For sure, it's the same demand we heard before. It's for voting rights for everybody, especially for people that don't own a German passport. We know that there's a bigger group more reasons why you can't vote, but we think this is one of the biggest groups that are not allowed to vote in Germany, and also we want to make a point, or we were thinking about, so who has the right to vote, which is in Germany 4.5 million people that have far right tendencies or nationalists or racist tendencies, and compared to 10 million people that are affected by the votings or by the thoughts of those people, we thought, okay, this is something we have to lift up, or we have to promote, support people by setting this demand for voting rights. You want to add something?
Yeah. I think it also just comes from our direct experience as artists, because as artists we are used to kind of diverse teams, and actually that's something what Die Vielen want to promote. We want that our institutions change to become more diversified. This means in the structures, how they're organized, but also in the structure of how we organize our work. And we're sitting here on the stage in our TAG Theater, and our experience is that many people take part in what we do. We trust our colleagues, our artists, and they enrich our program. So actually theater is collective thinking, and now as artists, as political artists, we create always a demand which goes beyond stage. So what we experience on stage, we think could be a model which should be experienced in other parts of our society, and the voting rights are essential in order to create another participation of people in society. So we actually, unfortunately, most of our team are kind of the privileged white people, but nevertheless we fight for this because we think it's actually the question of time that we create a bigger participation in political
we
processes.
thought that this question or this demand, it also reflects in the structures or in the smaller structures of the institutions, of the cultural institutions. So it's always a process about going outside and think what is for the society in general a big topic or need for development, and also think, okay, we have to also take a look at our own structures and what we can change there.
Yes. I think it's a good idea, and also to emphasize on this so-called diversity. You know, I like it because it is not just a theater piece. You know, it is about the lives of the people. Yes. You know, and where people really, they have to be inclusive in everything, because we are here actually. We have created this community. We have built it, you know. We have children. Some people are really tirelessly in their life working hard to build this nation. They are putting their money, even where they come from, they can't spend as much as we are spending here. And at the end of the day, you say, no, you have no right because you do not have a German pass, or you are not pure white as. So it's not funny for us. And again, you come out, you talk about diversity, globalization, you talk about multiculture. Where is multiculture? Well, where there is a point that I feel I'm part of this culture, you say no. So I think for me, this campaign really makes sense for me. And I think it should be supported. And as you said, some of your colleagues or who are here or not here, who really feel they are white, they should be there for this campaign. Because it is not our struggle is not a struggle only for the so-called migrants or refugees or the oppressed. It's a struggle for all of us, because when it comes to the true reality of life, capitalism is not leaving anyone. You know, we are living in a capitalist environment which we have to deconstruct together, to fight against, to make, in order to have a conducive environment where everyone is happy, not looking into my eyes as if I'm gonna grab you, and not looking into your eyes. I feel, oh, this guy or this lady doesn't want to see me. You know, as my friends, like they were telling, oh, white people, whenever you look at them, they tell you, please go away. You know? So I don't want to have such. That's why I am here. That's why we are here. So we must be integrated in all sorts of society. Oh, yeah, because this is democracy, and the democracy for me defines the word which I know very well and unites me and everyone, which is humanity. Yes. Humanity should not be for certain kind of people. It's for all of us. Unless those people having the power, the instrument of power, they come out and say, hey, humanity is only for the white people or for the high class people, the bourgeoisie group. Then there we will keep quiet and find our own level of living.
Yeah, I think Bino made a very clear point, and I'm here to say I see you and I hear you, right? So, and I also, as from a perspective as a woman, I know that women would not be in the parliament at this time if not the men who had the power to change that would do something against it. So I think it's our part to do our job and look at the developments in our society. And we, as we heard from Dominic before, in the last decades, the setup of the society changed so much, and we cannot ignore it. We have to adapt it to reality. So we have to think on, and also Sanas they asked the other day. They raised the question about or what we are thinking about a lot as well. We need the demands for development. So is our democracy still there where we wanted to have it? And also people that are coming here from states that are not that safe and strong in democratic processes, they raised the question and giving us a mirror to reflect, are we where we want to be, and is this democracy as strong as we want it to be? And in my personal opinion is, yes, we need to listen to people that come from other countries or that are here for generations now, and they don't have the chance to participate. And I think this is why we are here and why we did this campaign as well.
So it's actually a test for ourselves also. If we say it's valid what we say with our laws, with our democratic system, then this is the proof test for it. So actually fighting for this voting rights, it will increase the credibility of our own system. So actually, I tell you, in the end, maybe the one who will profit from this will be again the majority society. Who knows? In one or the other way, I think it will enrich our system and it will actually support the system, because right now we have a problem of credibility and this has to change. Democracy, if there is something foul in some corner of a democracy, the democracy will fail. So right now we see the attacks from the populist side against democracy in many countries in Europe and also in Germany, and unfortunately with quite a strong power. And I think if the system is foul in one point, then it could collapse. We have seen it can collapse, and I think in order to prevent it, we have to stabilize it, and we only can stabilize it if we give the parliaments to the many.
And just to ask this question, when you say give the parliaments to the many, you're not only talking about the current election, because that's what's on everyone's mind.
No, because
it's maybe a little bit of wider horizon. We need to
Mike, first the mic.
I think maybe we might be late for the next election, and also some people might say actually Die Vielen could be a party by all the demands they have, but I think we're late for that. So it will be a very difficult task to change those structures, because people have to share their power. But if they share their power, in the end, our state will have more power, because it will be credible and more stable. So that's something which is kind of a philosophical twist of our campaign, because we know that it's very difficult to change laws in Germany. Yes.
Oh yeah. But I mean, this is part of the point I think that you've been making, that the more involved a populace gets in a state, and the more involvement is possible, and the more pluralist a democracy or a society we can talk about, that includes everyone. Everyone, the more resilient it is in many ways, the more resilient it is to attacks from what we call right-wing forces, from outside, from inside, from everywhere, and it's just more representative, and it includes more people. And I don't really have very much to add here. I mean,
I can add something.
Yeah, go.
Because was asking about
through the mic.
Talk into the mic, Lina.
You always say that to me. I'm sorry, I don't look at you now. So, as Pino said before, about the cultural institutions, for sure we have to see them as political institutions as well, because they are part of our society and our system, and they are important to set up barriers for far right tendencies, and also they have the chance to transport through culture and activities democratic thoughts. So I think it's also a part. So it's not only getting people or raising politicians or voters, but it's also to getting ideas from another perspective. What can culture institutions do? So.
Actually, it's really, that's why what I said in the beginning, that it's really a very great thing. And I do recall my words during the protest at XPlatz. Whenever I had the chance to talk to the culture institutions, I was more directly calling on the theaters, because these are the centers, the remaining centers of culture gatherings. So that they should come out actively and respond to the voices of the refugees or migrants outside, because these are the pillars of change, you know. So for me to see you now, even if that power, that energy I had doing Oranian practice is gone, but actually I have this opportunity to be here with you. I feel that the change I was shouting for, it is here, you know. And we should feel great and strong and call on other cultural institutions to stand up. And totally what you were saying is really great, because the people, they believe in these institutions. And once you talk about the theater, those people who do not want to look into my eyes, they feel okay with coming here, but they can't face me if I am not here. So if you use this platform to campaign for the voice of the voiceless, for me, I think it is a change, a real change, and must be supported by all. Yeah.
And it's work, you know, it's something, it's easy to make a campaign, but the reality is it's actually work. We have to do a program like that. We have to practice this. We have to practice to listen. We have to practice to work together. And I think that's a challenge for the next years. But we, of the many, we are always with those shiny flags. We're kind of the optimistic ones. Yeah. That's why we have golden flags. Rather, we look at a very problematic world right now. We maintain this optimism because we think, you know, if it would happen that we manage to diversify our parliament, then maybe there would be less decisions made of which we as German people must be ashamed of, because the people in the parliament very often take decisions of life and death about people who they don't know and who are not part of the parliament. So I hope that maybe something like that people want to deport Afghan people to Afghanistan 10 days before the collapse of the Taliban, of the Afghan democracy towards the Taliban regime. Maybe something like that will be double thought through if there would be people of Afghan origin who are part of our society within our parliament. Maybe someone would have told them, you are on the wrong way. I think what we have seen with the failure of European politics is kind of the proof that something has to change, and that actually we have a big crisis within our governmental institutions. I was thinking maybe if there would have been some of our colleagues from the cultural institutions, many more things would have been better organized than our government right now. But on top of that, if there would be more understanding of the real situations of related people, then we would have a better politics. So that's why we fight for that. But it's a long task, but we maintain optimism.
At least the Wahlkampf would be a little bit more shiny, I guess.
Yes.
And but I don't know if we're already facing the end, but I want to...
We're going towards it.
Yeah, because I really have... need to invite people for our demonstration.
Yes, we need to talk about that. When is it?
It's Sunday.
That's the 12th?
September 19th.
Okay.
So it's another 10 days.
Ah, okay.
And we bring together people like from Miklum or the petition 14% to Platz der Republik.
Platz der Republik, it's what it's called.
Facing the Bundestag, and we have a program with music, performances. We hope that people bring golden flags, that they doing more posters, and come to join us on a shiny demonstration.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much more to talk about here. And any last statements?
Well, we have also a conference on the
Yes,
12th
exactly.
of
I was
September,
surprised
which
you
is
forgot that.
before the demonstration. And actually, we are guests of the Deutsche Akademie der Künste am Pariser Platz, am Brandenburger Tor. And that's kind of interesting because that's very central and I would not say mainstream, but very elitarian, very important institution. So I hope that the voices are heard who are participating in this conference on the 12th of September. You find all that on our webpage.
There's a live stream as well.
dievielen.de. And and that's there you can find the details about the demonstration and our conference. So welcome for that.
Maybe I will ask about this. Is it this flag? Is it a flag or what?
Sure.
This
Yes.
scarf?
It's a scarf, yeah.
What is
Yeah.
it?
It's a
But,
scarf.
It's a scarf.
It's a scarf.
And it's a
it
present for
says-
you.
Yes, it's a present. It says, wir sind die vielen, jeder einzelne von uns. We are the many, every single one of us.
us.
Yes.
So I know at the moment it's like a little bit too hot, and you brought your short trousers for today, what was pretty smart compared to me. But maybe you can use it in the winter time.
Wow. Viel. Ja,
Wir sind viele,
wir
yes.
alle.
We are the many.
We are the many, every single one of us.
And
Yeah.
so on that note, thank you, Lina. Thank you, Moritz, very much for coming and being here with us and sharing this project. We'll share the links in the YouTube show notes.
Thank you.
Notes, and let's end on a video of shiny flags, Ranav.
Yeah. Thank you
And
for
the
having
video.
us.
Thank you. Shiny flags for all.
Now I have here with me a golden flag, because the golden flag is the symbol of die vielen, the many, and this is a group of cultural institutions who are fighting against right-wing populism, and it is meant to be, a symbol which is golden on the one hand, but it's very fragile. It shows us that life is very fragile.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Eins, zwei, eins, zwei, eins, zwei, eins, zwei. Das mittlere, 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, das hat ja ganz viel Power. Sehr gut. Danke.
So, welcome back, people. Welcome back to the last talking segment of this week's XPlatzFUNK O2 elections. I'm very happy to welcome, or we are very happy, I should stop talking about myself in singular, that's also very capitalist. So we are very happy to welcome James Rosalind and Bettina Pinsel.
Correct.
Insel of Demokratie in der Mitte. And you two are part of an interesting project that's, as far as I could tell, actually funded by the city of Berlin. So this brings us to, well, we've been talking a lot about participation in elections and how people who are not German nationals can take part in political processes here. And your project actually takes it a symbolic step further. So maybe tell us about that.
Yes, maybe I can start. Thank you, first of all, for the invitation that we can present this project. And I have to say it's basically not funded by the district of Berlin-Mitte, but it's also organized, and the initiative lays in the district of Berlin-Mitte. Mm-hmm. So this makes it very special because we are working for an NGO, and we are working in cooperation with the district in this. And because we think it's very important, as we heard before, that many people from many different perspectives take this topic into consideration. And so what we are doing, basically, we are organizing next week, from Monday to Friday, symbolic votes at different places in the district of Mitte for people who are not allowed to vote for the elections. That's it. In what is happening, basically.
No, it's a very cool project because it looks to the future, basically. I mean, there are questions, of course, if we think about the immediacy that we've been talking about, the topic of participation for this very program, for all the length of this very program. Why the hell is this not happening in, not in a symbolic manner, but in a real manner? But, I mean, I suppose this has something to do with the political process, and that it is a slow process, and that in ways it needs to be, I suppose, tried first and tested how you can do this. So maybe again, tell us how the idea came about by the district of Mitte, by you guys. I mean, did you co-found the project? How did all this come about?
Basically, it's an initiative which is started in Freiburg. So it's at different communities all over Germany. Initiatives or districts are organizing symbolic voting. Mm-hmm. So bringing people in a different kind of action. Maybe also people who are normally not going to demonstrations, or where a campaign is maybe too theoretical. So it's like we combine it also with the political education because as we heard before, if I live here, I was born here, but I never had the right to vote, some people are not very much interested in the system, in the political system, and how does it work? Who votes whom? And and the system here is also a little bit complicated with you have two votings, and so we combine this voting with this political education on it, and also with giving people the chance at least to vote symbolic and to maybe get them into this process of I would like to fight for the right to vote. And also on the other hand, to raise the awareness at those people who have the right to vote. Because I think, as we heard it today, many people don't know how many people are excluded from voting. I think a lot of people who have the right to vote have no idea how many people this really is a problem for, or is a lack of democracy.
I mean, if I may add the number to that we've been hearing all day, 10 million people in Germany don't have, for a variety of reasons, the right to participate in many processes that shape.
Yes, and in the district of Mitte, when I may include some more numbers, it's like 1/3 of the people above 18 don't have the rights to vote for the Bundestag. and even 1/4 of the people among the age of 18 don't have the right to vote for the district parliament.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah.
I mean, if I remember Dominic's map correctly, it's one of the actually bluer districts, and the deeper the blue of the district is on this map, the less people can vote on it. Yeah.
Yes, it's really my pleasure again to be here with you, and yeah, talking about elections and voting in German. But now I will pose a question to you, and that if you hear all this saga around elections or voting, how can you describe our democracy then? It's for
how
you.
to describe?
Yes.
I didn't really understand. Like
The democracy. If you hear all these, that people have no voice to elect or to forward their ideas directly to the politicians, whom we think they can change things, but we are stopped far away. We are not even to the close to the polling station, or registration forms and so on. We are not even allowed to see them. So how do you define this democracy, this beautiful country, federal republic, telling us to respect? How do you define it?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because we love to say democracy is not just about voting, it's also about participation, but it's also about rights, about having human rights, having this equality and freedom and dignity, and how those come together. But of course, who makes the rights, who decides about those rights? These are politicians, and these are politicians that are elected, and that's if you don't have the right to vote, then you are excluded from democracy in lots of ways. I mean, you could say, well, people still can participate in other ways, like on a community level, or doing political organizing to make pressure, campaigns and so on, and that is true. But at the same time, to expect that people get involved in campaigns and mobilize and are active, but at the same time you're not asking them their opinion on who should be elected, that's a big call. It's no wonder that people then don't participate in the other.
And if I may add, for me, democracy is something which is in many different ways. So democracy can be within people. It's a part of society. So it's like how you raise your children, basically. Also, you raise you can raise them in a democratic way to give them the chance to become aware of problems and to make up their own minds. And then you talk about and you discuss things and you find solutions for you as a family or as a group of people together in a democratic way. This is for me one part in democracy. And then you have the society and all the different groups in society. So, and for me, and democracy is also this ideal, what we maybe will never have, but what we are fighting for. And democracy gives us the way to fight for it, to raise up our voices in many different ways, and not to be afraid of end up in jail, because we say, I want people to have the right to, let everybody who lives here for a certain time will have the right to vote. I do this knowing that nobody will put me in jail. People will discuss with me, or people might also think this is stupid or whatever. But the democracy we have gives us this possibility, and it's a long way. We heard this today already many times, that it will be a long way. But when I reflect, because I know a lot about the women's way into women's voting rights, so women fought desperately, and they had to suffer a lot, also. But it's like, yeah.
I mean, this is maybe one of these things those who enjoy and are privileged to have these rights always underestimate. Be it men of various classes, women, everyone, I mean, people of color, everyone, what a struggle it was to get these rights in the first place. And so in many ways, it's disheartening for me to see a society slide backwards in many ways. But in other ways, it also gives one a lot of hope to see that there are movements like 14%, like Defiant, like you guys, like us in parts. Let's hope we give someone hope. That are moving forward still in the middle of...
Like also this one.
All of the adversity, that too. Wir sind viele, jeder von uns. I mean, even if this is an organization, this is actually something that we can say about us because we're all connected somehow. Right. All human and we're all together in the society and we're working to move it, turn it around maybe, and then we'll be...
But we know it's there, yes.
We all know it's there. Yes. And I mean, it's heartening to see that there is this core of society that recognizes that there is something beyond what divides us, let's put it that way, and beyond the many words that I'm speaking right now. Is there anything you want to add? You guys.
I'd just like to add that as part of our campaign this time, like we've carried out the symbolic election in 2017, the last national election, and then in 2019 at the European elections. And what we learned from that was also the question from people who voted: what's it for? Okay, I'm putting this cross. It's symbolic. Where's it going? What are you going to do with it? Apart from putting out a press what do you call it? Press release. Exactly. So this time we're trying to take it to another level, and we've also joined together with the Defiant, and we're going to, for example, on the 19th of September, we're going on the Wiese and the meadow in front of the Bundestag. We're going to do like a political demonstration there, and we're going to do events in Mitte with politicians from Mitte to really give them, like physically give them the votes and give them the demands together with the votes. That really means that these symbolic votes are more than just a piece of paper that goes nowhere, that it really starts something and goes into like a physical movement. Yeah, that's it.
Yes, and I also would like to add the invitation for all the people in Berlin, because we are doing this in Berlin Mitte, and if you check out our website...
Maybe say the name?
Can we see that?
Or, okay, we'll put it in the show notes.
Berlin-mitte.de, so you see all the places where you can vote, and even if you are not living in Mitte, you can vote, because nobody will ask you. That's the point. Nobody will ask you where you live. You can just vote there. And so we invite everybody in this beautiful city who doesn't have the right to vote, please come, check the website, maybe go to one of the things we are doing, and hopefully you go to vote and talk to as many people as you can about it.
Yeah. Maybe I have just one point or something I would like you to comment on. It's not really a question, but it is one of the talk I recorded from one of the Berliner politicians, Dreger. I forgot the second name, but I think you know him. He's a very young guy, very proud to be a member of CDU.
Okay.
We hosted him one time during the occupation of Oranienplatz, and there he informed us that you guys here, I don't know even why you were here protesting, he just told us we should really respect the democratic Federal Republic, you know, or the rules, because his government, he said, it's really democratic. Why it is democratic? because it is elected. People elected them, they gave them the votes. So then, for me, there comes a point that if these guys, they're getting just proud to be there because the people elected them, and they are making these horrible laws, killing us, keeping us isolated from the community, excluding us from all social accessibility, why then, what are these elections actually mean for us? Most especially we, the neglected people. And maybe those even German people who have less voices. I do believe that even if they are white enough, some they don't have a voice like this guy, Dreger, or other. So what does these elections or voting mean for people like who are in this category of me and these voiceless, German voiceless people? Is there a point?
You mean the symbolic voting, or you mean the
no,
real the real one?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to answer what does a voting mean for somebody else. I do not like, or for a mass of people. So I can say for people who can vote, you know, of course I would say please vote democratic parties. And as we heard before, parties or politicians which would like to work on less discrimination, less democratic deficits. And I would answer, like also in this way of to respect the democracy, in my personal opinion, to respect democracy is to take part in it and to fight for it, and to fight and to sometimes to obey, but also to disobey. You know, nobody has the right not to disobey. So it's like, you know, this, because this it's about, we created together. So,
right.
And this is to me. So if somebody would say, respect democracy, I would say, yes, I do. I fight for it. You know, people who are not taking part in it, they are, in my perspective, not respecting it. They take the good parts out of it, have maybe a good life, but they don't do work for it or engage for it. So does this answer from? But James, what do you say?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, of course, yeah, indirectly, even if you can't vote, and that's really disempowering, you're still affected by who gets elected, because if the if the AfD get elected, which hopefully they won't, but you never know. But you know, like, or even right wing, whatever, people who are against immigrants and who are going to make the situation worse, then that's going to have an impact on us, even if we can't take part in it. So yeah, that's. So it's still relevant, even though you're disempowered. It's like still I mean, I know people who themselves can't vote, that are even part of like political parties in Germany, or for example, Deutsche Wohnen enteignen, the campaign. Only people who are citizens are allowed to sign the campaign, but there is a significant group of people who are part of the campaign who themselves couldn't sign it, because even they want to put the message across, that the very fact that they can't sign is part of the campaign itself. So there is even an argument for getting involved in political parties, even if you yourself can't vote.
I mean,
thank you.
And yes. So, demonstration on the 19th of September in front of the Bundestag. Everyone come. You guys are setting up symbolic voting booths in Mitte. Everyone's invited to take part. Anything we missed? Okay.
I think so. Thank you.
Bettina, James, thank you so much for coming.
Find you?
Where do we find you? Or we'll put all this in the show notes.
Yes, you will see all this in the show notes, hopefully. And it's not only James and me; it's many, many more.
Exactly.
I have to say, we are many organizations who are part of this campaign in the district of Mitte, and yes,
20 different.
Thank you, Ranav.
Wow.
And beyond. I mean, this is what I didn't know, that it was part of a movement that's much larger. But thank the two of you for representing this movement. Thank you for your work. And you have any?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
you. Thank you for invitation and talking.
Okay, we're going to take 2 minutes to set up.
I'm given
for
this campaign to campaign.
Exactly. You're going to become our ultimate campaigner now. So now we're going to take 2 minutes to set up for Hikmat Al-Qassar, who will be not talking about elections. He will be playing his guitar. And that's going to be a nice change. Okay, so thank you very much. Applause. And out. Okay. So, Bino, what did we learn today? Did we learn anything?
Counting.
We learned counting, true. Ranav just taught us how to count. Backwards, no less, backwards. Maybe one day we'll be able to count votes as well.
Right. Yeah, but anyway, we learned a lot about the elections, and also what I didn't know about is this, what is called?
The Demokratie in der Mitte.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting also to conduct elections like the way you think it should be conducted. Yeah. And so it's really great idea, and I think we are so privileged that we had the opportunity to host them. And talk about this.
But now we have an even greater privilege. we're not going to talk about politics for a while. That's a privilege.
Wow.
And it's our pleasure to introduce to you اقتباسات. اقتباسات. Let's say that 5 times quickly. اقتباسات. And
you're welcome, bro.
Take us to a different place where we all can agree that it is a beautiful one. Thank you so much. Ahmed,
so how is it? Can I ask you before?
Yeah.
What's your music? What's it all about?
It has different kind of dimensions, I guess, like sometimes about depression, sometimes about hope, sometimes about many things. But like, yeah, usually I have this kind of set of music that gives hope mostly, I guess, hopefully.
Great.
Yeah.
Unfair question. If the election were tomorrow, would you vote?
I guess, yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay.
I don't know.
Dude, let's
yeah.
listen to
I never did
music.
it, so that's why, yeah.
Yeah, so let us hear the vibes, and
all right.
Then we can talk afterwards.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
خلاص ولا كلام؟
ممكن
ممكن طبعا.
بس ما بعرف شو ممكن.
هتعرف.
improvise. اوكي. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And that takes us out of today's show beautifully back into an alternate reality we all enjoy. And right, we'd like to thank Abdelbasat, aka Hikmat Al-Qassar.
Yes.
We thank Ranav, who has been doing. We thank Ranav, thank you, who has been doing our streaming direction all day. We thank Thomas, who's been on the sound. We thank this guy there. We thank Commanderess If, who's been on the camera and may or may not show her face. That's up to her.
Yes.
We thank, again, Hikmat. We thank everyone who was there. We thank Bino, thank you. Bino.
Thank you. Thank you, Kalam. Thank you, Tak.
Thank you, Tak. Thank you all for watching.
Thank
We're
you
back
all.
again next week.
Thank you, listeners.
Thank you, listeners.
Friends and enemies.
Thank you, listeners, friends, and enemies. How could I forget? And listeners, friends, and enemies, we're back here again next
That's it.
week.
We love you all.
What?
We love them all.
Yes, all of our enemies we love, all our friends we love everyone we don't love, and love we have anyway.
And please vote openly.
Just write it on the wall somewhere.
Yeah.
And just let people know what you think of politics, and that will help a lot. Doesn't matter if it's street art, if it's songs, if it's whatever. Your voice counts and should be heard. Don't let yourself be excluded by some kind of systemic suppression.
But
hallelujah!
It's amazing vibes.
Yes.
Actually, I thought, where am I now? Listening to all your thoughts. It's really very encouraging.
Yeah.
Yes, it is strong thoughts, and yeah. You're welcome. And I hope our dear listeners got it.
And what I'm trying to say is, we're here again next week.
For you are most concerned about next week.
I am more concerned about the future than about the past. And this has become
the present.
And the present has become a part of me. And from there we go forward.
Wow, you are all.
And so the music has become part of me, all the thanks has become part of what we're doing. And so let's think about the past and know that it happened, but also look towards the future, because that's what we're trying to improve here.
All right.
I think. Are we?
I think so. Look around.
Yeah, I
look
see
what you have hosted. Great.
I see what you've hosted.
Great people.
He's talking about himself now.
But also good to talk about yourself.
Yeah. I feel good about all this. I mean,
yes.
Today has been a great show. I think we really had some great people
really
on.
Great show.
And
great guests.
Yes.
Mostly. They made it great.
Yes. Great music towards the end. Can I talk about next week now?
Yeah. You are already in next week.
I'm not in next week yet, but getting there. Anyway, next week we have the Takademi here. That's a group of 10 international artists who are performing or who are building the Multitopia workshop in this very space. We will be live and direct from the workshop, from the artistic processes, with opinions, with differences of opinion, hopefully. It's going to be about biodiversity, about conservation, about climate change. It's going to be about artistic ways of countering it and spreading the word about it and advocating for a better, more connected, more coexisting planet, which is what we're talking about anyway right now. Right. So
every day.
Not only when we're on the radio. We actually talk about this thing in private. So,
great.
Okay.
Firearmed.
You are firearmed. Exactly, firearmed. Thank you, people, for watching. See you again next week.
I don't want to tire our people on the camera side.
Again, thank you to everyone. Thank you to Ron, who's not here. And good fight. Good night.
We love you all. We are.
Thank you. Thank you so much.